Hello, BookTube. A couple of weeks ago, I spent almost a solid week going to the Brattle Bookshop every single day to meet with somebody or other, to meet with some out-of-town guest or other every single day. And that was wonderful. For those of you who are new to my channel, I was told by a little busybody yesterday who was poking around in the analytics of my channel that there are plenty of new people here. The Brattle Bookshop is a used bookstore in downtown Boston. They're terrific. I absolutely love them. I think once you visit, you'll see right away a lot of the qualities that differentiate them from just an ordinary used bookstore. It's a very welcoming, very conversational place. There is no stiffness towards the newcomer. There is no, oh, we'll tell lots of in-jokes to make you feel excluded. There's lots of good humor, lots and lots of know-how, lots and lots of books. And in addition to that, there's a sale lot next door to the store. Not a sale cart or a row of sale carts, but a sale lot. An entire parking lot full of used books. At $1, $3, and $5. A total anachronism. The Brattle could make millions of dollars selling that lot for a commercial building to be built there. They could also make hundreds of dollars a day as an actual parking lot. but instead, it's books. And a couple of weeks ago, I went there to meet the author Janet Wortman on one day. I went there to meet Jason Harrigan from the west coast of Ireland there. I went to meet... who else did I meet there? I went to see Scott Danielson and Jason and Mark Richardson, my friend Mark Richardson. We all met together at the Brattle. But I'm leaving someone out. Oh, right, Greg and another Bibliophile Reads. His ship came in. He was on a cruise ship, and he came to Boston, and of course took a cab to the Brattle. That was a whole solid 4 days of going to the Brattle. And as you might remember from the videos that resulted from those days, I got a pile of books every single day. It isn't like you hunt the Brattle dry. That doesn't happen. I know this for a fact because for years and years and years, a long time ago, I worked in a retail bookstore right around the corner from the Brattle. I went to the Brattle on my lunch hour every day. Never left empty-handed. So I know that it is possible, but even so, it was a lot of leaving my little dog. She doesn't like to go to the Brattle. And that bothered me, and also, although those meetings were lots and lots of fun, they did put me behind on some work that I wanted to do. I mean, you go to the Brattle and you meet with people and you schmooze and you talk and you maybe have lunch. That's 4 hours gone right there from the day. So at the end of that time, I told myself, well, maybe lay off on the Brattle for a while, and I did. But I went back today. It's overcast, gray. It's fairly cool. It's 90% humidity. It's tropical level humidity. Higher than tropical. It would be, the people in the tropics would consider it very, very close. Very, very humid. That has the effect in Boston. If the temperature is warm and the humidity is at 90%, then you will sweat bursting, flowing rivers of sweat, even if you're just standing still. Activity won't be necessary for you to be pouring in sweat. And if the temperature is not hot, as it was not hot today, you'll have this clammy feeling all over everything, every external surface, your lungs, your nasal passages, your eyes. It'll just be this clammy feeling. And this, in around 2021, I noticed in the spring of that year that Boston was having an incredible string of incredibly humid days at the beginning of that summer. 85% humidity, 89% humidity, 90% humidity, basically as humid as the air can get without it actually being raining. And back then in 2021, I thought, boy, oh boy, it'll be great when this goes away and we get some nice, crisp, dry weather. And since that early summer in 2021, that has not happened. Not once, not for even a minute, as the humidity in Boston gone below 90%. So the frames of highways, of doors, of buildings have all warped out of proportion. Apparently it's never going to happen. We're just going to have tropical humidity from now on. I have to say, if it's going to be 90% humidity, I prefer that it be hot than this. But still, there was no sun. and the air was at least nominally cool. So I went to the Brattle this morning. I thought I had no errands to run. I thought the Brattle was the only one. And then, as fate would have it, the minute I get back here, all of a sudden I become aware of the fact that there are plenty of new things that had I known about them at the time, I could have done at the Brattle. But I didn't, so I just concentrated on the shop itself, which is having a facelift. The wall that overlooks the sale lot is having a facelift. Apparently the brickwork needs to be cleaned and resecured and nice and smoothed out and all that. So there's scaffolding and covering all over the scaffolding on the outside of the wall, and not as many bargain books available. That the cases along that whole wall are of course closed, but also half the carts that are usually wheeled out into the lot couldn't be wheeled out. Well, that stuff there still had plenty to occupy me, plenty. And also there was the inside of the shop and talking with everybody and chatting and smoozing and joking. It was just lots and lots of fun. And I got a gigantic pile of books. I got 100 pounds of books that I somehow got back here. So we're just going to go through those. And the huge first batch of these things are nautical fiction. I have a sweet spot for nautical fiction. The aforementioned Mark Richardson also has a sweet spot for nautical fiction. I have a lot of it. I read a lot of it. I think it has pretty indisputable high points. So when you read a knockoff, you're not tempted to think this knockoff is better than the original. But I found a bunch of mass market paperback nautical fiction. Like, for instance, I found Richard Woodman. I found the first book in his Nathaniel Drinkwater series, Midshipman Drinkwater. Woodman was a huge fan of Forster's Horatio Hornblower novels. And it shows, of course, this is the exact same cover design as the Hornblower volumes that I really like. And it shows. This is basically just a knockoff of Hornblower. Instead of Hornblower, the name is Drinkwater. In either case, the surname is the person doing something. A person doing something. Bell ringer, Drinkwater, pants sewer, Hornblower. And what this series does is just what the Hornblower novels do, only this does it in chronological order, I believe. The Hornblower novels follow one character, Horatio Hornblower, throughout his entire career in the Navy of Napoleonic era England. So a large part of Hornblower's career is spent in naval warfare, in these great old wind-driven vessels. And Forster didn't start out Hornblower at a midshipman, or before. He didn't do that. But he went back and told the whole story. So you get Hornblower virtually every step of the way, all the way from a mewling little punk to a lord with a manor. And here's the same thing, Nathaniel Drinkwater. I have never enjoyed these, but I've never seen this cover design either. So I found the first one, and we'll see if maybe I can enjoy it a little better. Then there was an oddity. This I don't know at all. Maybe Mark would know it. This is Kenneth Maynard. I don't think I know that name at all. This is First Lieutenant. And it actually says, in the tradition of Horatio Hornblower and Nathaniel Drinkwater. And this is the cover. Old-timey type cover. Is this the late 70s? 1985. Oh my, you don't have any excuse, do you? This is First Lieutenant. And I gather that there's another book in this series, at least one, Lieutenant Lamb. These are about Matthew Lamb. Oh, it says on the cover, this is the second Matthew Lamb adventure. I only saw this one at the shop today, and that's all right. I'll get the taste for it. A lot of these things are very derivative, so the odds are that I won't like this, but one of the nice things about the Brattle sale lot is that everything is dirt cheap, so you can take a gamble on it. You can take a gamble on something like this. So I found that, and then I found a few examples that are far, far more known. far more known. I found a couple of Dudley Pope's Ramage adventures, which I've hauled them from Brattle Halls many, many times. I always get rid of them. There's always somebody out there who wants them, and so I send them away. But I found I believe Ramage is the first one in the series. I had this as a hardcover. I've had this as a trade paperback. This is a neat little UK mass market. of just Ramage by Dudley Pope. But then Dudley Pope did the same thing. He followed his character through innumerable naval adventures. And I found another one, another UK mass market paperback, Ramage at Trafalgar, which has a little. It has blurbs on it from that you won't get on the U.S. edition. I don't know how many U.S. editions Ramage had. I don't know that it had any. Like, for instance, this has a blurb from Ham and Inns. Trafalgar Revisited, courtesy of Captain Ramage. Dudley Pope gives the reader a frigate view of the battle, exact in detail and a very good read. Something called Lloyd's List says moves at a fast pace and matches the best of Dudley Pope's extensive writing. And the cover from the Yorkshire Post says as fast and accurate as grape shot. A deadly word when used in connection with historical fiction, that word accurate. that is deadly. But it doesn't really apply to Dudley Pope, who I have enjoyed. So we'll see. We'll see if I will give these. I don't think I've ever read Ramage at Trafalgar. I know Mark and I both do. We could easily describe all the details for you minute by minute of the Battle of Trafalgar. But I don't think I've ever read this book. And then you might be saying, well, all this Napoleonic era seafaring adventures certainly sounds like not only Horatio Hornblower but Patrick O'Brien. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I found a bunch of UK mass market paperbacks of the OBrien Maturin novels of Patrick O'Brien, which is a delight. Not only because they will all have different cover art than the American versions, but also because they'll have different blurbs. In one case, a different title. I found HMS Surprise. I found a bunch of them, actually. I found HMS Surprise. I found The Reverse of the Medal. What else here? The Fortune of War. I don't think I've ever had all. I've had a couple of mass markets of these, of O'Brien, but I don't think I've had all of these. No. I found The Ionian Mission. Bit of a dud for me as an O'Brien book, but I'll give it another try. The nice thing about these mass market paperbacks is that someone has already enjoyed them. They are decidedly cocked, which means I don't have to worry. They've reached their final port of call. I'm not going to get rid of them, so I will read these mass market paperbacks and just be even less gentle with them than I ordinarily would, because they're never going anywhere else. There's Desolation Island. This is look at that cover. How weird. This is will probably, an element of this book will probably be very familiar to you if you've seen the Master and Commander movie. Just an element of that movie was taken from this book, and it's terrific, just terrific, a high point. Then we have the Mauritius Command with these UK covers here, and finally Master and Commander itself, the first book, which I don't think I've ever seen this as a mass market paperback. Very happy to have it. I will. Master and Commander is one I will try to be gentle with. I will try not to destroy it. That would be nice, because that's the Master and Commander is the first one. It's the one where the two characters, Jack Aubrey and Stephen Maturin, meet. So it's always a bit of a little mew of disappointment when people ask me about the Aubrey and Maturin books. Are they really as good as people say? I tell them yes. They're absolutely brilliant. They're absolutely incredible. And many times over the years, people have said, oh, well, I have the Mauritius Command. I'll get to it right away. And I have to sort of stop them and say, no, you really should read these in order. A lot of historical novel series, you don't have to. I argue you don't have to read Hornblower in order. Obviously you don't, since he didn't write them that way. But with the Aubrey and Maturin novels, Stephen Maturin and Jack Aubrey meet in the first book, and it really helps to start here. And I think I'm going to try to hold on to that one. Then another mass market paperback, I found an old Meridian paperback classic of The Egoist by George Meredith, his most successful book, with a cover painting that is not credited anywhere in the book by an artist I love, and a painting, a portrait of a figure about whom I know everything there is to know. So, and I've never seen this edition before. I've seen The Egoist, of course, in many paperback editions, and I've had it before. It got a brief burst of life, I think, because it was Joe Spivey who read it here on BookTube. But I got the paperback that I got fell apart, and this one I don't think will. These old Meridian paperbacks don't fall apart. So that was the last mass market that I got. Then I got, let's see here. Well, this trade paperback, which I've never seen before, this is The Free Fishers by John Buchan, the of 39 Steps fame. I really, really like 39 Steps. I think everybody does. This is a historical novel set in the Napoleonic era. So it's not a seafaring novel, but I'm pretty sure that I've never read this. A John Buchan novel that I've never read in a beautiful trade paperback that I've never seen before. So I love the Brattle. You're going to get things like this. You're going to get odd little gems like this. Okay. This next one was a BookTube made me buy it. Maybe I could specifically zero in on my Steve streams made me buy it. Because with the best of intentions, all with the best will in the world, all friendship, no yelling, no hissing, no spitting. A number of you have Dostoevsky shamed me of late. A number of you have pointed out to me, watched me stumble over the titles of short stories in Steve streams, and made me realize, or gently pointed out to me, that perhaps it's time for me to revisit the master. To read lots and lots, or maybe all, of Dostoevsky. To read it and really ponder it and really think about it. Because apparently there are all sorts of things that have slipped out of my easy control. A number of you have asked in subsequent Steve streams, have you started? And the answer is no, because I am building a Dostoevsky library first, before I do that. And I found this gorgeous Everyman Library edition of The Adolescent, a lesser-known Dostoevsky novel. That's a little bit on the strange side. It's from what I remember, this is the Peviar and Volkonsky translation. I've never read this translation. What I remember of the two translations that I have read in the past is that its secondary status as a Dostoevsky novel is merited because it's pretty sloppy, and also two things: the main character is a bit of a non-entity, which I know is a little bit redundant when you're talking about an adolescent boy, but also for no reason whatsoever, for no reason at all, two of the main characters in the book have the same name. Now, I know that happens in real life. I know you know more than one John. But this isn't real life. This is a novel. And that's just insane to me. It's insane when Jane Austen does it. It's insane when Dostoevsky does it. But it's been a long time since I read The Adolescent, which does not have a canonical English title. I'm pretty sure that every English translation of this book has had a different title, which doesn't help it any. But now I'm slowly adding to my Dostoevsky library. What I really want now to find is a big collection of short stories. Big, huge collection of I could swear I remember such a thing. A big, fat collection of short stories. I could swear I remember that. And that it had the dust jacket had a winter painting on it. I could be wrong about that, but I need a lot of the short stories, obviously. It was the short stories that were ground zero of my Dostoevsky shaming. But this comes up too. I did not have a copy of this at all, so now I do. Then this I got a trade paperback, a couple of trade paperbacks here. This first one is a great biography of a figure who's had a lot of great biographies. This is Ronald Clark's biography of Benjamin Franklin. In a nice trade paperback that will definitely survive a reading. I'm always kind of on the lookout for a hardcover of this, but I thought that immediately when I saw it today, but then I thought, this thing will. You've read plenty of trade paperbacks without destroying them. You're not the Tasmanian devil. So, and as far as Franklin biographies go, it's really, really good, balanced. Not all that interested in picaresque tales or legends. Not really interested in those things at all. I've read a lot of Franklin biographies. I won't say that I've read them all, but I've read at least 100. And almost all of them have drawbacks of one kind or another. If they are a full life, as this is, from beginning to end, usually they will be of the, can you believe it school that just bores me. He was a man. Very complicated, extremely flawed, very important man. What good does that what purpose does that approach serve at all? I don't see any approach that it serves. Or the book will be really, really good biography, but it won't be about the whole of Franklin's life. It'll be about one period. He lived a long time. and his life, a lot of the periods in his life seem fairly fenced off from all the other periods in his life. So this probably comes the closest to a modern one volume. Van Doren's big book is great, but it's a little on the creaky side. This is probably the closest so far to that I've read to a really good one volume treatment. But I'm glad to have it anyway. I really enjoy it as a reading experience, and I can always swap it out for the hardcover if the hardcover shows up. Then I found something. What is this? Cambridge University Press. Finished trade paperback. Gorgeous thing. It was the format of the paperback that halfway sold me on this thing, not just the subject matter. The subject matter is Alexis de Tocqueville, who in 1840 came out with his Democracy in America, an absolute classic. It's had 1 million editions. Had the Penguin Classic. It's an amazing book. It's also an amazing reading experience. It's an amazingly important book. It's been clutched right to the heart of America, despite America's parallel track raving xenophobia. It's a great book. It's a very entertaining book to read. Once you get used to de Tocqueville's humor, you see that it's in a lot more places in that book than you think. It's a big doorstop of a thing, but it's not as forbidding as you would think. But de Tocqueville lived for years and years after he got back to France from America. And he kept writing about America. And this book from Cambridge is Tocqueville on America after 1840, letters and other writings. And I would have grabbed this anyway. I'm a big fan of de Tocqueville. I think he's really, really interesting. I especially like books that study his writing. We saw, what was it, a year or two ago? We saw a book that was entirely devoted to de Tocqueville's travels, other than to America. And I would have got this anyway, but this is also lovely. It's got deckled edges, and it's got French flaps. It's just it's a completed trade paperback. This kind of thing, really sturdy binding, deckled edges, French flaps, this ought to be the way all books come out. They ought to come out like this new, including academic books, including university press books. They ought to come out like this for half the price that they are currently charged. People would buy them. A lot more people would buy them. They'd be easier to print, but this is going to be a delight, and it's also a strong contender for the coveted read it right away spot on the reading list tonight. Then this next one is a rebuy. The Brattle gives me many opportunities for rebuys. I hauled this on the channel just a few months ago, and reread it at the time. I was finding a lot of books on the Battle of Gettysburg from the American Civil War. And I was reading them all and finding them all fascinating. And there were high points and low points. Some of them were expecting the battle's drama to carry the book. Can't do that. You're the author. You can't expect the events to carry the book. Some of them were dry. Some of them were a little clueless. Some of them were a little shallow. Some of them were really good. And they ended up being a whole shelf of a bookcase, like 4 or 5 feet wide. And when I was coming up to the next point of contraction, the next time where I get rid of books, I thought, well, a lot of those can go. You don't need 10 books on the Battle of Gettysburg. So they all went. And I thought no more about it. Except that every once in a while, I would look at the books that I had kept, and I would think, there's one of those accounts that I really did enjoy more than the others. I should have kept it. And I don't sweat that at all when that happens, because the Brattle will provide. Unlike other used bookstores where you better strike while the iron's hot, because you might never see that book again. I will see virtually everything again at the Brattle. So even if I go, once every 3 weeks. And the book is this, Stephen Sears' book on Gettysburg. He did, he's credited on the cover with his book on Chancellorsville. But you will know him for his best-selling book, Landscape Turned Red. His book on the Battle of Antietam, which I was just recently hip deep in rereading that book, because I was thinking about writing about Stephen Budiansky's new book on the Battle of Gettysburg, and that is his signature thing. He went on from there. That book sold like hotcakes and still does sell. It's a fantastic book, but he went on from there to study a lot of other signature battles of the Civil War, and I really enjoy his Gettysburg. So I was very happy. This is a better edition than the one that I had at the Brattle. Oh, wait, it's got a bookmark in it. What's the bookmark? 1,000 Words in Exeter, New Hampshire. Does 1,000 Words still exist as a going concern in Exeter, New Hampshire? I'd love to know. This is a better copy than the one that I had, so I grabbed it, and now I'll know better. I'll just keep it now that I've been tempted here. Then this next one, another thing you can do at the Brattle, because the prices are so cheap, if you're paying $3 for a book, you don't really have to worry much about it. This author has never done it for me. This author has the cliche legion of fans, and yet the books have never done it for me. So I found a UK hardcover one with a plastic covering on it and thought, okay, give it another try. It's $3. Give it another try with an open mind. This is the Rebus novels of Ian Rankin. This is Resurrection Men, which is, I don't remember which number in the series. It's not near the beginning. It's double digits. And it's slow horses, basically. It's Rebus is always insubordinate and not fit for duty. And at one point, if I remember this book, I read this when it first came out in the U.S. edition. If I remember correctly, he's rusticated for his insubordination to a group of resurrection men, of detectives who resurrect old dead cases in an attempt to teach them the basics all over again. And so I remember liking this more than almost any other Rebus novel that I read. I would not have grabbed another Rebus novel, even in a UK hardcover, if it hadn't been this one. But it was this one, and I'll give it another try. I know that Rebus has lots and lots of fans. So I feel like I'm missing something there. A lot of the fans of his that I have talked to over the years know what they're talking about when it comes to books. They know what they like and what they don't like, but they also know what's good and what's not good. Those two things don't always overlap. And a lot of the people I've talked to who like Ian Rankin know the difference and say, no, this isn't just hitting my sweet spots. This is really good stuff. I've just never seen it. So I will give it another try. Then this next one was also a BookTube made me do it thing. Mark Richardson, the aforementioned Mark Richardson, when he was here for that epic meetup, that epic multi-person meetup at the Brattle, he got a copy of a book that I haven't read in decades, and when I read it, I was tremendously impressed by it. One of those things that just has an underlinable quote or observation, an insight of some kind on every page. And when he got his copy, I realized that I didn't have a copy and that it had been forever since I've read it. So when I saw a copy, I grabbed it at the Brattle today. It's F.O. Mathiassen's American Renaissance. And I found a copy with the dust jacket and a plastic covering over it. How nice is that? Very nice. So this is never going to look any worse. This is about as sturdy as it gets. And this is his study of what he called the American Renaissance. This is his study of, basically a very small span of time, a few years in the mid-19th century in American literature, where a whole bunch of seminal American classics were all published at the same time. But it's broader than that, because he's looking at, of course, one of the people that he studies in detail did not publish a book in that time, but it doesn't matter. He's looking at the literary conditions that would give rise to all of these great writers in the first place, regardless of when they published. And he's really good. This is I don't even want to know how old this book is. 1940s? That's a long time. There's no one alive who was born in the 1940s, that's for sure. I haven't read this in a long, long time. I'll be happy to give it another try. Prompted by Mark Richardson. What else have we got here? Oh my God, I've got books piled everywhere here. Okay, well. Okay, we've just got a couple more to go, and then we'll be done. Like, for instance, where is it? When I was at the Brattle, that last trip with Jason and Mark and Scott, I was complaining. I found a hardcover of Bring Up the Bodies out in the sale lot, the second volume in Hilary Mantel's Thomas Cromwell series. I wanted to go at it again. I wanted to maybe do a read-along of it and on this channel again. I have been doing that, and it has been wonderful. And when we went upstairs to do our book haul on camera at the Brattle, I complained that I bought the hardcover out in the sale lot for the purposes of that read-along, even though I think the American hardcover of the book is ugly. And I said at the time at the table, gee, I wish that I could find the pretty understated UK hardcover of Bring Up the Bodies. And while we were filming, Zach, who works at the Brattle, you've seen him on many videos on this channel, got up, went down the aisles, found a copy of that very book, and handed it to me. He found me this. And not only did he find it, but he put one of these plastic coverings on it with such skill that it fits like a second skin. And we have been doing a read-along of Bring Up the Bodies, and that's been lots and lots of fun. I mean to continue that, I'm hoping today. And a lot of you have written to me about that read-along. A lot of you have said, this is one of those books that's been on my shelf forever and ever. Thank you for doing this. You're encouraging me to pick it up. Is there any chance that we could also do the same for the other two books? So go back to Wolf Hall and also go forward to The Mirror and the Light. I said, sure. I don't need much in the way of pushing to reread these books. And I dropped a gentle note to Zach saying, well, if I don't ever shop up on the third floor, it's all old books and collectible books, first editions and rare books and whatnot. I never go up there, except to bother the staff. I never go up there. I told him, if by any chance the companion volume of Wolf Hall shows up in the same UK hardcover, it would be great if you could set it aside for me. This does not mean that I'm becoming a third floor customer at all, but if you could set it aside for me, and maybe if you could find it in your heart to cover it with a plastic covering like you did Bring Up the Bodies. Lo and behold, that exact thing happened today. He found a copy of Wolf Hall, and it's gorgeous. It's got these the same painted end papers, and he covered it as well. And it was an amazing. I wish I'd filmed it. It only took him 5 minutes to do, but it was the work of an artist, and just amazingly perfect job. So I now have both of these and need only The Mirror and the Light to make a nice. These things are incredible. I don't know if I mentioned that in my read-alongs of Bring Up the Bodies, but these are incredible. The binding is nice and stiff. It's sewn onto the book. The pages are rich, thick paper. It's just, they're made to last, these hardcovers are. So that was great. And then the last thing, it isn't the BookTube made me do it, because he's not on BookTube anymore, but it's definitely another reader made me do it. David Murphy, some of you may remember. I think he has one video up on his channel. He had a whole bunch of videos and nuked them, but let's not talk about that. But he visited months and months ago, and when he visits, we do a lot of used book shopping. And when you do a lot of used book shopping, especially in subsequent days, consecutive days, little book dramas develop. You see something someplace, and then maybe you see an echo of it someplace else or whatnot. And he developed a drama like that with Lou Cannon's 2-volume biography of Ronald Reagan. Saw it in one place, thought it was too expensive, saw it in another place, and grabbed it. And when that whole drama was playing out, I was thinking, there's Max Boot's biography of Ronald Reagan is coming out later this year. I'm going to be waiting for it. Turns out I waited for it a little longer than I expected, but I did eventually get it. And I don't know why I was thinking that way, because that doesn't invalidate all the other Reagan books that have come out. So when I found a 2-volume box set in trade paperback, I grabbed it. So we have Governor Reagan, The Rise to Power, and President Reagan, The Role of a Lifetime, here in these trade paperbacks, which are fascinating to me. These are really, really terrific reading experiences, regardless of how thorough I think Cannon is being. And I was all the more propelled to read it, to get it at the Brattle today, because I have been reading and living with and carrying all around the Max Boot biography. So now I have what I'm pretty sure that the Lou Cannon Reagan biographies are the most popular of them all, the ones that have reached the largest reading audience over the decades. No idea if that will be true for Max Boot's Reagan book. I almost think that it should happen. I wish that I had the ear of, I think it's Liverite. Oh, actually, I do have the ear of Liverite, but, I wish I had more of an ear of Liverite, because I know just what I would do with this Max Boot book. And I don't think they'll do it. What they ought to do with this Max Boot biography of Reagan is pull out the stops to make an unbelievably nice quality trade paperback. Really floppy, excellent binding, deckled edges, French flaps, embossments everywhere. A really nice product. Like one of the kinds of trade paperbacks that doesn't just feel like a naked version of the hardcover. They ought to make one of those coming out right around the holiday season next year, and really advertise it. Really, really make that the book. Make that the go-to version of the book. I bet they would sell a shed load of it if they did that. I myself think they would have sold a shed load of it if they'd done that originally, with the hardcovers only going to first edition collectors and libraries. Other than that, it's just a beautiful trade paperback. I think they would have sold a lot more copies of this thing than they're going to sell. Although I don't know. I haven't checked to see whether or not this thing is making any inroads in the New York Times, in the bestseller list. It should. But I don't know if it is. But anyway, that was a Brattle trip. that was a Brattle trip. That's what happens when I stay away from the Brattle for a few weeks. It turned out to be a few weeks that I stayed away. I don't know what kind of a Steve Pyramid we can do here. Let's give it a try. We have a box set. I love box sets anyway. This will just sit here on the footlocker, and I can pick and peck at it for a week. A box set of Lou Cannon's two most popular books on Ronald Reagan. He wrote a lot of other stuff about Ronald Reagan, but these are the two. Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. In the UK hardcover with this covering on it. Perfect condition, just wonderful. I don't know off the top of my head how much Zach charged me for this, but it's worth it. Absolutely worth it. Then American Renaissance by F.O. Mathiasen. So this right here is 300 pounds. Then you add Resurrection Men and Gettysburg and de Tocqueville writing about America after his great book, and Clark's biography of Benjamin Franklin. That's 1,000 pounds right there. Okay. But then we keep going. We have this thing, The Free Fishers, which has a bit of a plot to it. We have The Adolescent by Dostoevsky, part of your endless campaign to Dostoevsky shame me. We have The Egoist by George Meredith, the curiously underrated George Meredith. And then we have this whole stack of Napoleonic-era seafaring fiction. 3 different authors. Could have been 4 authors. There are plenty of Alexander Kents there. But I have all of Alexander Kent as ebooks. I might have all of Dudley Pope as ebooks as well. But I have all of Alexander Kent as ebooks, and I don't... no offense to Mark Richardson, but I don't like his Bolitho books well enough to want a whole shelf of actual print and paper books of them. I just don't like them well enough. Yeah, which is kind of odd considering what I did get today, but that doesn't matter. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to do, I guess, what accounts to a lot of extensive reading and rereading in Age of Sail fighting fiction. I wonder if the one character that I don't know, Midshipman Lamb, I wonder if he'll be cut from the same cloth as Hornblower and Drinkwater. Or if maybe he'll have a little bit more human tones to him. I don't know. But I will report back. So there you go. That was the Brattle. It was right where I left it. I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.